All right, guys, here with Hunter, we are going to go over kinetic stretch from the seated splits position. So remember, when you're using a kinetic stretch, you're using your regressive angular tissue to pull yourself into the basement of the stretch. When you reach the basement of that stretch, you're using your progressive angular tissue to drive yourself out. So as far as cueing here, how I get the regressive tissue and progressive tissue to fire right is for regressive tissue, I'm going to cue them to attempt to pull the legs back at a 45. And that's just going to access all of that short range tissue without me naming muscles. Then when he reaches the basement of this, however big the person's range of motion is, Hunter's is going to be a big range of motion, general pop person might be smaller, but it's the same demand. When they get to the bottom, he'll then push those legs in at a 45 to drive himself out using the progressive angular tissue. Now we'll go over progression for that. So to pull himself in, we'll take the hands on the floor to just deload the lower body a little bit and accept some load into the upper body. So he's going to use his regressive angular tissue to pull himself into this pancake position. So start to pull yourself in, Hunter, and what you can't see is he is trying to pull his legs back at this 45. When he reaches the basement, he's going to drive those legs in at a 45, using that progressive angular tissue to drive himself up and out. Progression, we get lighter and lighter on the hands, eventually coming out into airplane mode. So we go airplane mode, giving some strong fists, and he does the same thing. Pulling himself in, so thinking of trying to pull those legs back and out when he reaches the basement. Squeeze the earth at a 45 and try to Susanna Summers yourself out. Next progression, we make it heavier. So we make the lever heavier at the top by way of putting his hands behind his head. So go ahead and pull yourself in. Again, he's using that tissue, pulling those legs back. Reaches the basement, drives himself into the floor, which produces force to drive him out. Hardest rep, we're going hands over head. This becomes very heavy, very challenging, quite demanding. Pulling himself in, using the regressive angular tissue. The basement of that, drive yourself out, squeeze the earth. And that is a progression for kinetic stretch from the seated split position.